How convenient. Those media outlets who have played key roles in whipping up hatred against Muslims, against migrants, against refugees, they want to now pass the buck. They want to stick their hands up and go, not us, gov. In the aftermath, of course, of a hideous far-right insurgency. Now, we cannot let them get away with that, because otherwise we will learn no lessons from this far-right insurgency. This attempt essentially to launch a terrorist campaign to impose a reign of terror on English streets, to stop people of colour feeling safe, not only on the streets, but even in their own home, specifically Muslims and, in general, people of colour. Now, let's just listen to this clip of a BBC interview with the Sun newspaper's editor-in-chief, Victoria Newton, and that's from the BBC's media show.
I don't think it's fair to say that what we're seeing playing out on the streets now is a result of the mainstream media's coverage.
What do you say to people who are tracing a direct line from material you and other media have published to where we are now? So in 2015, when Katie Hopkins had a column in The Sun, she likened migrants to cockroaches. In 2017, Trevor Kavanagh, who used to be your political editor, used the phrase the Muslim problem in your paper. Would you allow such comments to be published now in The Sun?
Look, to be clear, I've been editor since 2020, so that's before my time. You will not find anything like those things in the newspapers that I have edited. However, I don't think it's fair to say that what we're seeing playing out on the streets now is a result of the mainstream media's coverage. I think you need to look to social media and disgusting characters like Tommy Robinson.
And The Sun, I suppose, was always the kind of voice of the person on the street. That's how we saw it. I wonder if you feel you still are. I mean, the critique of the legacy media, I suppose, applies to you as much as anybody else, that a big section of society now gets their information from social media, not from the likes of you or the BBC.
Absolutely. I mean, the BBC can't quite decide whether we're really powerful or not powerful at all anymore, as we talked about, Katie, in the run-up to the election. Look, I still think newspapers are at the heart of much of the conversation in the UK. You've seen that during election times. Often TV take their lead from newspapers. So they certainly still have a role to play, and our online reach is huge as well.
Well, that's awfully convenient, isn't it? I'd note that the ownership of the Sun newspaper, Rupert Murdoch, has not changed. It was under him that this racist bile was printed. And Murdoch has, of course, long used his position to promote poisonous right-wing politics. Donald Trump, for example, he backed. Apparently when he was president, they reportedly spoke every week. Now, it's worth noting that in the Katie Hopkins Sun column mentioned there, she was allowed to write the following about those risking their lives whilst crossing the Mediterranean. No, I don't care. Show me pictures of coffins, show me bodies floating in water. Play violins and show me skinny people looking sad. I still don't care. Make no mistake, these migrants are like cockroaches. They might look a bit Bob Geldof, Ethiopia, circa 1984, but they are built to survive a nuclear bomb. They are survivors. The headline was, rescue boats, I'd use gunships to stop migrants. Let's be clear, this is Nazi-type shit. That's the sort of thing you'd expect from Der Stürmer under Adolf Hitler's regime. Now, it's mentioned there that Trevor Kavanagh from the Sun newspaper, long-standing political editor, and associate editor of The Sun, he wrote about the Muslim problem, later claiming, in response to the outrage, I can honestly say it never occurred to me that this could be interpreted as a play on the Jewish problem, which, if true, just shows how unbelievably naive and educated that man is, but still doesn't really deal with how awful that phrase is. In the follow-up Sun article, to quote, it reads, the abuse of women by Muslims, says Trevor Kavanagh, is on an industrial scale. Just substitute that for somebody else, another minority. I mean, it's just ludicrous that it's seen as permissible by the Sun newspaper to speak about Muslims in that generalised fashion. Now, bearing in mind that Trevor Kavanagh was the political editor of the Sun newspaper for about 20 years and then became associate editor and only retired from that position last month. So listen to this clip with that context from this February on Talk TV. That's also part of the Murdoch empire. And this was after a Keir Starmer supporting Labour candidate made anti-Semitic comments.
Cosmetic. Most of the measures taken by Keir Starmer to keep the lid on the anti-Semitism in the Labour Party has been cosmetic, simply because a 30% vote in the constituencies like Rochdale are anti-Semitic by the very definition of Islam, by the very definition of being a Muslim voter. You're going to be anti-Jewish. So
Do you think that as our ally, we put this to somebody yesterday, contentious maybe, but that's what this station and a show should be about, trying to get all sides. Do you think that as our ally meant to say quite deliberately what he said to appeal to a certain section of the Rochdale electorate?
I cannot believe that he didn't know exactly what he was saying and the impact that it would have on other people in the audience. But he also clearly has not learnt from the experience of what happened in the Commons when the debate was interrupted by someone saying that Rishi Sunak has blood on his hands. That was Ali as well. Sorry, it wasn't Ali, it was another Muslim MP. This is a huge division within the Labour Party, within the Labour movement. I can't imagine that there are many Jewish voters in the Labour Party who feel safe.
Absolutely astonishing stuff. He said by the very definition of being a Muslim, you are going to be anti-Jewish. Just blatant, wanton Islamophobia. They didn't push back on it. Did you notice that? The TV presenter did not even, both of them, didn't bother to push back, where he's just saying that a Muslim is innately anti-Semitic. He then confuses this candidate with another Muslim Labour MP. Another Muslim. Oh, sorry, wrong Muslim. Who actually had quite correctly said that the Prime Minister then, at the time, Rishi Sunak, had blood on his hands over Gaza. That's not anti-Semitism. It's conflating anti-Semitism with something that isn't anti-Semitism. It's a statement of facts about Sunak's government arming Israel as it inflicts a genocide on the Palestinian people. Now, this is just one example of the gratuitous Islamophobia pumped out by the British media, without which you can't understand the Islamophobic pogrom on insurgency on our streets. Here's specifically pushed by journalists at the Sun newspaper and the Murdoch Empire in general. Now, given this particular incident happened when she was editor, did she institute any disciplinary action against Trevor Kavanagh for what he said there? I would also note that The Sun in 2015 splashed on 1 in 5 Brit Muslims' sympathy for jihadis, with an image of an ISIS killer brandishing a knife used to behead people. The Sun was, in this case, at least forced to issue a correction because it suggested that the poll showed specific support for groups like ISIS, which it did not. But of course, the damage had already been done. These are all examples of how the Sun newspaper has played its role in ripping up bigotry against Muslims. Now, we all agree, or anyone sensible should agree, that Elon Musk plays a poisonous role. But these people want us to focus our attention on social media for a very good reason, to stop us thinking about their role. Now, let's listen to the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer.
And I think that's clear from the prosecutions and sentencing. Today, we're due sentencing for online behaviour. That's a reminder to everyone that whether you're directly involved or whether you're remotely involved, you're culpable and you will be put before the courts if you've broken the law. And so that's happening today, that sentencing. I do agree that we're going to have to look more broadly at social media after this disorder, but the focus at the moment has to be on dealing with the disorder and making sure that our communities are safe and secure.
There it is again, just social media. Nothing about the inflammatory and poisonous rhetoric of newspapers, like the Sun newspaper, which notably endorsed Keir Starmer in his election, which he said he was delighted with, or words to that effect. Now, the Tories have a long history of inciting Islamophobia in this country, but the Labour Party has profound questions to answer too, which I write about in a column due this weekend for the Guardian newspaper. I would note that I do strongly believe that the demonisation of protesters who were there on the streets against the genocide in Gaza has much to do with this. They've been portrayed as a dangerous, hateful, violent mob that inevitably then focus attention on the Muslim contingent over and over again. Similarly, when Labour lost to Muslim independent candidates in predominantly Muslim communities, the party responded by acting as though their victories were illegitimate somehow, alleging intimidation and bullying without any convincing evidence, again raising the spectre of menacing and violent Muslim voters. There has been a systematic attempt to portray the Muslim citizens of this country as a sinister and dangerous enemy within, with Muslim people arriving from abroad as some dangerous invasion. All of that has consequences. It's so easy to just blame Elon Musk and social media. Yeah, there's a poisonous role there, but this problem did not start with him or Twitter. And it suits those responsible for dousing the petrol all over this country to claim otherwise. Please like and subscribe. Do leave your thoughts, your comments as ever. Do keep the show on the road at patreon.com/OJ84. Don't forget to subscribe. Speak to you soon.